Label mini fans, this is Rob coming back at you with another tutorial. This week we're doing another Star Wars Legion video on the Tauntaun Riders. So after assembling and priming the Tauntauns, let's go ahead and get started. I've chosen to do my guys similar to their as close to as I can to their movie version, and that means using grays. So using some base gray, let's go ahead and cover all those areas of the miniature, top to bottom. So after putting that base gray on there, let's go ahead and grab some of our neutral gray and add that to the mix. And we're going to go over all the outside facing areas of the miniature. This, this will include the top of the tail, both of the legs and arms, the top of his head, and the neck area right below his mouth. And continuing to work on our Tauntaun, let's go ahead and with that same mix from the previous step, let's add in a little bit of light gray and continue to push the cover up. The color, we're going to be covering less of the surface area than the previous step. Just remember to get decent coverage, as always, thin down your paints so you're not obscuring details and such, and remember to take your time. So we're going to go ahead and start working on the quote un-gray parts, but we're going to go ahead and use a little bit of gray to help blend these parts into the gray areas. And so let's use some base gray and US brown, and we're going to use that to cover the muzzle area of the creature's face, his horns, paws, on all four of his limbs. Let's go ahead and jump back to the fur, this time using a light gray. This is going to be the main color of the fur, and you're going to want to wet blend the areas of light gray with the areas of the neutral and base gray mixture as best as you can. Remember to wet blend. You're going to put some paint on, rinse your brush off real quick, grab the other color you want, and mix the two of them together as you're working away from the lighter area until you get the best mixture you can, where it looks like the fur doesn't actually jump from one color to the next, but they kind of mix together. Now let's go ahead and grab some pale flesh, and using that pale flesh, color the inside of his ears and the tip of the tail that does not have hair on it, top and bottom. So after giving our fur a little bit of time to dry, let's mix a couple of drops of white gray into that light gray and give the Tauntaun a quick dry brush. Do your best not to go overboard here, we just want to do a quick dry brush on the tips of the fur. Let's go ahead and grab some khaki, or I guess you could use a shoti bone or something close to that. And we're going to pick out his claws and nails. Also on the back of his legs, the higher points towards his flank, you're going to find like a little thumbnail up there. And also do not forget to do the horn protrusions on the top of his head as well as the horns themselves. let's go ahead and start working on the rider in a saddle here. Now, the saddle straps can be covered in a flat brown or other dark brown color of your choice. And we're just using this on the saddle straps only. So if you're not aware, most pack or mount style animals will usually have a blanket or something similar between their body and the saddle or whatever it is they're carrying. So for that, I've used a Beasty Brown. And on the Tauntauns here, it is just a tiny area around his neck and by his hind-quartered areas. For the saddle, I've chosen to use a saddle brown. This is another one of those colors, that I've had sitting around forever, that has never gotten any real use, and I figured I'm painting a saddle. Why not use saddle brown? Now moving on to the saddlebags, I've chosen to use a brown that has a slightly more yellow flare to it, and for that I've chosen leather brown. And I'm also going to use this for the bridle. For you guys that don't know, the bridle is the area that is in the mouth and used to hold the reins of the animal. Now for the rider of the Tauntaun, I decided to do his jacket, and I guess you could call it like a Western flair, or just trying to keep with the Western style colors. And so for that, I just decided to go ahead and use a flat brown here. Now grabbing some black, I'm going to be base coating all the metal items. These are the rings of the bridle, the stirrups of the saddle, the rider's blasters, as well as his areas on his utility belt. For the scarf and bedroll of our rider, I've decided to go with something that seems a little more westerny, just like his jacket, and I figured a hemp color would do that justice. If you don't have this color, you can always add a little green or white to a brown or a khaki, and you should be able to achieve it, pretty quickly. Now for the pants, I chose to use a neutral gray. The main thing here is that I'm trying to keep a separation between the mount and his rider, while also trying to keep them looking like they actually belong together, but separate at the same time, I guess you could say. Now for the rider's face, you can use some Beige Red here. It's just a little tiny area, and it is a pain in the rear to get to and cover up. Now for the hat on this guy, I wanted to keep him in line with my other Hoth units, my Rebel Veterans that I did in a beige style color. So for his padded helmet, we're going to go ahead and grab some, or I should say the padded portion of his helmet, we're going to do that in beige. Now for the top of his helmet, I'm going to go ahead and use some light gray, and this also helps tie in my rider with my mount while also tying him in with my other Hoth units I've already painted. And I'm going to grab a little bit of scale color heavy metal here and color the tip of the blaster, the rings of the bridle, and the stirrups, as well as the buckles on the straps. Now let's go ahead and start shading this bad boy. I'm going to shade the miniature with a mix of a little bit of water or thinner into some AP Strongtone and give the entire unit a good bath, with the exception of the rider's hat. Remember not to let this pull up in any areas. Just, rinse your brush off and wipe it up like you would with a towel, or touch it to any obvious areas that are pulling, and just repeat it until needed, until the shade sets. Then, let him sit around for about 30 minutes or so he can dry really well. So after letting him dry, let's go ahead and start cleaning up any areas that we feel need it and highlight. And so for his horns, his nails, I'm going to go ahead and grab some khaki again and get to work, remembering to leave the recesses of the horns and the base of the nails in the shade. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and grab me some Screaming Skull here. If you do not have this, you can always add white to your khaki. And we're going to hit the tips of his nails, the small horn protrusions on the top of his head, and any up-facing parts of his main horns. Now let's go ahead and grab some white gray. We're going to do a really light dry brush of the fur. By saying light, I am referring to both the amount of the paint you're putting on the brush as well as the amount of pressure you're actually applying. We don't want to go too heavy here. We just want to hit the tips of the fur as best as you can. Now let's go ahead and get some US Brown to clean up the jacket of the rider. You'll notice here that I colored the rank markings off screen. I've done one row of red, one row of blue, and one row of white. I'm sure there's an official way to do this, but I have yet to find, something that really says it has to be done this way or it has to be done that way. And I tend to just go however I want with their rank markings. Now let's go ahead and clean up the saddle using the same saddle brown. Just focus on the edges and only the areas that are outward. Leave all the other areas in shadow. Now let's go ahead and take that US Brown that we're using on his jacket and mix a little bit of flat brown onto it, and let's work on the saddle straps, giving them an edge highlight. And also you might as well go ahead and do the bridle at the exact same time. Now let's go ahead and grab our neutral gray from before to highlight the pants and the boot wraps. Then you can add a little bit of light gray and give them another quick highlight, and you should be done with those. Let's give his hat a little bit of work. So let's grab some white gray, mix in a little bit of white, and get to highlighting. If you feel you need more depth to the hat, feel free to thin down some neutral gray. Make sure it's really thin though, and add it to the inside edge of the brim and the outside parts of the skull area of the hat. Now I can't forget to do all this work on the Tauntaun and not pay attention to his mouth. Grab some Beige Red and color the inside or the Tauntaun's gum line as best you can here. Grabbing some German gray and mixing in a little bit of neutral gray, I'm going to edge highlight any areas that were done in black. You will notice that I happened to change one of the colors of his saddlebags to black. This was done to break up the super monotone that I felt was happening. I also painted his gloves in German gray and then cleaned them up with this exact same mix. Grabbing some flat yellow and thinning it down. You want to thin it down enough that when you touch the the paintbrush to the model, the flat yellow kind of just comes off, but doesn't come off like a water spigot being turned on full blast here. So, and just do the goggles of your riders. A quick final touch to the areas with hemp. Just grab some hemp and clean them up, the bedrolls and the scarf. If you feel you need it, you can add in a little bit of white to this and give them a bit of an extreme highlight. So this paint scheme that I've done here works great for a winter style setting, but if you prefer to paint these guys more in a temperate setting, you know, just change their fur to a dark light brown and the rider's jacket to sand colors. For the base, to keep them more in line with my other Hoth units, I went ahead and did them in a snow base. And Hoth being an ice planet and all that, you know, there's really not much vegetation that goes on there, so I chose not to add any. You know, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, you know, feel free to leave them below or reach out to me via Facebook. Remember to like, subscribe, and share to help my channel continue to grow. If you'd enjoyed this video and want to help me continue to make more, consider supporting me via Patreon or my PayPal link below. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.